Hello, my YouTube friends. My name is Adam Kahn, and this is my Dividend Retirement. Thanks for joining me in this rotation and this journey that I'm going on, moving out of some of the growth stocks into dividend stocks as I push towards retirement. Really interesting day in the news. Zohran Mamdani announced a potential 9.5% hike on property taxes, which may create a really good opportunity in a REIT that I've been looking at. I'm going to give it some time, but I'm going to talk about it today. The Supreme Court also ruled that some of the tariffs, not all of them, are unconstitutional, which is going to play out pretty interesting as well. And then while the Epstein files are not being released, it sounds like they may release the extraterrestrial files, which, as much as I'm half joking, are super interesting. Tom Bilyeu did a really interesting piece in his live that he did today. I'll kind of point to where it is in the video for anybody who wants to look at that. I thought it was pretty amazing. He even points to some people who won the Nobel Prize about some of this stuff, so I'm kind of wondering what is actually going along. Stick around, today's video should be super interesting. So first, let's talk about the tax hike going on properties in New York, which goes against everything this guy kind of promised while he was going in the election. Now, I'm not trying to be political. I will say I don't really like the policies and I don't like him too much. So I'll do my best to be fair about what's going on. I just think that while it was a campaign of, you know, looking out for the common man, despite like it can be spun that this is going after the people who are wealthy, but the reality is if you raise property taxes, it really goes after anyone. Because even rent or whatever else, if somebody is paying more in their expenses, they're going to have to raise the prices of what they charge. It's just math is math. It's something that can't be avoided. Now, what is going on where I say this may create an opportunity? Well, SL Green, which is stock ticker. Like I said, I leave the bloopers in. I apologize for those of you who don't like it. Well, I don't really apologize. I do this stuff for me and super selfish. But ticker symbol SLG. And before I even talk about it, as always, nothing in these videos is financial advice. You shouldn't be listening to me when making your financial decisions or any of your investments. You need to do your own research when making these decisions and potentially even reach out to a professional financial advisor. I am not a professional financial advisor. I do all this stuff for entertainment purposes. I just share the things that have worked for me over the year, and this is a platform where I can get out my thoughts. Hopefully you enjoy it and find some entertainment in it, but please don't make your financial decisions based on something I like or don't like. Now, my point with SL Green is this is causing the stock to sell off, making it a more attractive price. I don't think this is done playing out, so I'm not just jumping in and buying it here, but I am putting it on my radar. Like, I might buy one share to put it on my account so that I can pay attention to it going forward. And if it just goes right back up, well, maybe I missed an opportunity. But I think New York real estate has good value. So if this causes some short term, and keep in mind, short term could be a year or 2 years. That doesn't mean necessarily over the next few weeks or whatever else. But if this causes some short term pain for a company like SL Green, in time, I think they own a lot of really good properties located in New York, which is a good place to have real estate. So, in the long run, I think they'll end up just fine. I think it's a good space to have some real estate or REITs that you're invested in. So I'm keeping an eye on it, seeing how it plays out over the next month, 6 months, year, however long it is that it takes to play out. But as long as it's in the news and it continues to put pressure on the stock, I'm kind of waiting for an opportunity where I see some clarity that I can make a decision if that's one of the companies that I want to add to the portfolio, because they do have a nice dividend. And so long as they don't go out of business, even if they have to cut dividends or things like that, eventually that'll be in the price of the stock properly. And like I said, I don't mind owning some real estate in New York. I just want to get it at a good price. Now, the second thing that I mentioned was that the Supreme Court mentioned that some of the tariffs that have been implemented are no longer are not constitutional, so they're going to be canceling those out. I'm really interested to see how that plays out. Does Trump try to overrule them and say that it doesn't matter what they say, it is constitutional? I hope he doesn't. I hope he respects the three branches and doesn't become this battle of I still have the right to do what I want to do. I'd be curious to see how it plays out if he does go that direction. I just hope he doesn't, because I hope that going forward with whomever is president, that we still have three different branches and nobody thinks that they're above the others or in the position to just do whatever they want. That being said, it should really help the stock market, because that was a weight on some of these companies. Even Costco had its own personal lawsuit against the administration because they felt that they had pushed too far and it was squeezing them too much. I think the fact is maybe they should have just raised prices if they were being squeezed like that, which is what ultimately tends to happen with tariffs. And I don't personally have an issue with tariffs. I think that sales tax is a good way to tax people. I think user tax of sorts is actually a fair way across the board. I even have my whole crazy concept of it should be escalating depending on the price of the products you're buying. I mean, if you're buying a $5 million yacht, maybe there should be an 100% tax on that that helps fund the things we need to fund, because I think that's a way that we can tax the wealthy. Like all of this, billionaires need to be taxed more or whatever else because they have great accountants that can get them out of things. Well, there are ways of setting up user taxes to even that stuff out, because I don't think they're not going to buy the toys that they want to buy. And I think the reality is you want those people because that's what drives innovation. Allowing people to make good money or grow to be worth a lot more money than anybody else ever really dreams of really pushes the economy along the way that our economy moves. It's what I like about investing in American companies. It's not that I'm Mr. American or this or that. I think that the way that our capitalism and stuff works, and the way that we have the quarterly reports, and we're a little bit more hungry to grow capital, is what pushes our stock market stronger than some of the others. And yes, there have been foreign investments that have done better for a short amount of time, but over the long run, it tends to be better to have invested in American companies. Now, that is not financial advice, please. As always, like you need to do your own research. I just think over history, and I think going forward, the fact that that's what seems to motivate us is part of what drives the earnings and part of what drives the valuation and part of what drives the company. When you take that stuff away and you go towards different government and different policies and more of whether it's socialism or communism or whatever else, that drive to innovate is a little bit different. It becomes forced by government entities or just going in. Anyway, totally off subject. Either way, they ruled against the tariffs. We're going to see some of them disappear unless something changes for that. I do think it's going to help the stock market overall, and then some companies in particular. The only part that I didn't love is, I guess, the ones that are spending a lot of the capital expenditures, which is why we see tech improving. They had a lot of costs that were going up on the things that they needed to build out the infrastructure. And in some ways, I think that might have been a good way to tax some of them, because if it's Meta and Google and Amazon, and you guys know those are three of my top four holdings, but they are such behemoths. If this is a way to be able to drive some tax revenue from companies like that without raising corporate taxes because they're expanding so fast, maybe it is a good way to drive some revenue, and maybe there should be a way to figure out how to still charge for some of that stuff. And I don't want to punish those companies, but if they're doing so well, there's no reason they can't help to contribute to make the country better, help to pave roads, help the military, help whatever else we need, the education and everything else. And to just kind of cut that out, maybe there's a discussion to be had to have some sort of form that fixes some of this stuff, because we run a huge deficit, which is not so great. Deficit reminds me. I almost forgot. That goes into part of what Mamdani was talking about, that New York has this huge deficit, which is part of why they're considering the rate increase on the property taxes. The funny thing is, he's talking about raiding some of their coffers to take the money now with this plan to pay it back in 2028. However, he doesn't outline how they're going to pay it back. He just talks about taking the money because we have the shortfall, and then in 2028 somehow we're going to repay it. I don't know where that money's going to come from. It seems like it's just going to come out of thin air. Again, hopefully I'm just not too negative because I don't like him, but it was really interesting how he spewed that out there, and that he's taking from all of these programs that this is their buffer to be able to pay pensions and things like that. I just think this is a huge mistake, and this is what happens when you promise everything for free. It just doesn't work that way. The money has to come from somewhere. On my other channel, I talked a little bit about these videos I'd been watching where they were talking about free education and this lack of information that some of the younger generation has about where that all comes from. Feel free to check it out. If I was good at technology, I'd put the video right there, but I'm terrible at this stuff. Uh, I would learn about it and take the time, but I have stuff I do and I keep busy, so I don't always have the time to really delve into the editing and learning all of it. But I would love to. I guess in some ways, maybe not. If I don't take the time to do it, maybe I'd just like to say I wish I was good at doing that. So either way, I'm not sure how they're going to replenish those coffers, but it seems like they're going to just take money out of one hand to cover the shortcomings for now, and then maybe figure it out down the line. Oh, Tuesday, 11 o'clock. I'm going to try to do it on this channel. So, Tuesdays at 11, I do a live. It's 11 Pacific time. So, I know it sucks for some people. This I know how to put in there. My super selfish self. Tuesday during the day fits my schedule pretty well. It tends to be a day that there isn't a whole ton of going on, and my family's now gotten used to that time frame. So Tuesday, 11 o'clock, I will continue to do the live. I hope you guys can make it. I love the platform because people can put comments right there and then, and I'm able to respond to it. I wish we were able to talk back and forth better. Feel free to ask about any stock if you have a question about. Feel free to let me know about some dividend companies that you think are good, because I've gotten some really good suggestions for things that I can look at. Just know that this dividend retirement rotation is going to be slow and take a long time. I am in no hurry. Companies like Amazon, Meta, and Google, I think, are pretty fairly valued right now. Microsoft as well. That their PEs are actually pretty reasonable and on the lower end, and you don't see this come around too often. So I'm not like looking to panic sell them, because if their earning projections are accurate, I think they're a bargain where they are. So I will slowly sell out of some of that stuff over time to rotate into the dividend companies, because my attitude is, if the market does what I think and Meta and them catch themselves, they'll still outperform. So even if I have to pay more for one of the dividend stocks that I'm looking at now, if I get more and Meta does better in the meantime, or Amazon or Google or whomever, that I end up in a better position even if I'm paying a little bit higher for the other stock when I end up buying it. So let me know what you guys think. Either way, it's probably going to take somewhere between 3 or 5 years, but I'm excited about actually just having some dividend checks come in and being able to budget that way. So, the last and kind of most interesting thing, I don't know how many of you guys watch Tom Bilyeu. I think he's really smart. He's interesting. I don't know that I agree or disagree sometimes with some of the things he said, but in the video he did today where he was doing a live this morning, you can skip to minute 23 if you don't want to listen to it. He talks about how they're releasing some files about extraterrestrial activity. And it sounds like there's some legitimate activity that the government has accumulated over the years, even to where he dated some study in 2022 where these guys won the Nobel Peace Nobel. I don't think it was the Peace Prize. I don't know. Either way, they won the Nobel Prize for science and talking about how the world works, and that something about molecules only react when they're in sight. So if nobody's paying attention, it doesn't really exist. It's very confusing. It's very interesting. It's very hard for me to explain. I'd have to watch it a few more times. Like, I know I get it, but it was also like, does if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, sounds like the tree didn't even really fall in some respects, because if nobody saw it, it didn't happen. And it's this really interesting study, and then it goes into the extraterrestrials. that there have actually been sightings. They have this whole range of, like, I think it was 1 through 7 categories that fit in this realm of what actually exists and what doesn't. So it seems like we're not going to get the Epstein files, which I personally think is disgusting. I didn't care in the beginning, but the more that I've heard in the background, the more I started listening to it, because I don't know who's in there that are that powerful to keep it out of our view, because the people in there deserve to get in trouble. If people were actually doing the things that have been discussed and taking advantage of young kids and all the disgusting things that are probably going on, I'm sorry. It just bothers me so much that because you're powerful and connected and really wealthy, that you have the ability of stopping that from being able to come forward. Unfortunately, just like everybody else, you should get in trouble. And I even think if you're in that good of a position, maybe you should get in more trouble, because you should be the ones doing the right things. I just, that's my opinion. I am not a judge. I am not jury. I am not in the position to make these decisions, but I sure wish I was, because I would really throw the book at some of these people for some of the things that they were doing. I think that if you get in that position of power and wealth, it shouldn't be used to protect yourself. It should be used to make the world a better place. Like, that is the goal of why you get there. And unfortunately, I think there sure a lot seems to be a lot of sick and twisted people who get in that position. And it's just unbelievable that they actually are able to stop the information from coming out. I don't know if this releasing the thing about the extraterrestrials is to take our eyes off the ball. Um, Forgive if I misquote, but it sounds like Prince William is actually being investigated as part of the things that were going on with the Epstein files. And it sounds like similar to what happened with, and this is also according to Tom Bilyeu, which is why I said some of the stuff is pretty interesting. But similar to what goes on with the mob, and when they get in trouble for tax evasion, they aren't really going after him for the things that went on at the island. They're going after him for sharing some of the documents that are classified with Epstein. And it goes to kind of the whole thing about how far are politicians or leaders or whoever else it is willing to go to try to get whatever it is they're after, even if it's dating underage kids and things like that. Are they willing to share secretive documents that our government has, or opportunities for trades and profit and whatever else? And it sure seems like the answer might be yes. And again, I wasn't all interested in the Epstein files because it just doesn't interest me. But then I hear what's going on and I think, geez, I hate to admit whether it interests me or not. It is something they need to release. I don't think they're going to, but it's very bothersome to think about the people in power and how much control they actually have. Anyway, welcome to the new channel. I hope you guys enjoy the content. If you could do me a favor, especially since it's new, if you could hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. If you don't, that's fine too. Really, I'm not super concerned if the channel grows. I really do this for entertainment and my own purposes. Originally when I started YouTube, I had these fantasies of like growing some huge channel and it doing really well. At this point, I'm not sure that it matters so much to me. I've been doing it long enough, and that isn't what's going on. So I'm kind of just fine with a small community. And in some ways, it's kind of nice because I get to know the people who make the comments, which is a little of why I encourage the comments. Like, I've gotten to know Billy and Lance and Rudolph and some and boy, forgive me. I know his acronym is PIG something, but if you're watching, I'm not even sure I remember the name. But I've gotten to know you guys, and I feel like it's my own small community of people who I say hi to every now and then. I'm kind of an introvert. I've got like 2 really close friends, or 3 potentially, that I talk to all the time. But outside of that, I don't have this huge group of people. So I kind of like, I don't know. I know it sounds silly, and I love my family and whatever else. So it's not. It's just who I am. I like being an introvert. So this is my way of kind of getting out there. And I don't think I really need to have a huge big following that I no longer have the time to even respond to. I've noticed some of these guys who do their videos, like once they get to the certain point, they stop responding. And I think they've gotten big enough that they don't have the time to really respond to everybody. And B, once you get to that size, there's enough like negative comments that who wants to listen to that all the time? Like honestly, if you've got 500,000 subscribers and all these comments, you're going to get a lot of negative ones. So it's probably better to shut it off and not even pay attention. I have one currently who's a bit of a troll and he's a little bit annoying. So it finally got to the point that I just deleted him. I don't know if he's watching, Joe. Um, I don't know who he's trying to impress. Like the way that I trade, I buy things and I leave them in account, and as long as the account is doing just fine, I don't worry about if one stock is doing poorly or well or anything else. And I don't worry about how it does over the next couple of months. I really worry about how it does over the next 10 years. Like, my goal is that these things will be able to pay the bills for my wife and my son. Fortunately, I've been very lucky throughout my years, and I'm not super concerned with me. But if I can put things away and have them set up so that they have money coming in to budget properly, that's my goal. While he sits there spewing out day trades that really have no concern that half the time they lose, half the time they don't. And forgive me, I was a professional trader for 30 years and I was a day trader for 5 or 6. So what I can tell you is if you were really successful, you wouldn't have the need to prove it to anybody. You would be really successful and have money coming in to pay your bills. Like, that is how it works. And there's just no reason to put it out there to make sure people see. I do this channel so everybody understands in hopes that some people who watch it start saving for the future, because I know how valuable that is. If you leave money and put it away for 30 or 40 years and allow inflation and compounding to take its time, you tend to do really well and you end up in a position that maybe you end up being able to retire without an extra added stress of money. I had one sister that if you gave her $100, she would spend 150. She just always was in debt. And I've watched that my whole life. And uh, if I could smack her around, I mean, it's my sister and she's 9 years older than me. She'd probably beat the crap out of me. But really, if I could help her out where she would actually save instead of spending the way that she did, I would love if she was in the position where she wouldn't be so stressed about finances. But unfortunately, that's kind of who she is. So if I can encourage others to put away and save for their future, as corny as that sounds, that's my goal. I saw one of the YouTubers who I like some of the negative ones, but it's kind of funny to me. It's one of the ones I was thinking of when I talked about his channel growth, who he always advertises the negativity around the world. And he talked about how by people showing like all of these, really fancy things they buy and everything else, it encourages people to make bad financial decisions and get into debt. That might be true. But also by doing those negative videos, I think it allows people to be able to blame the government, blame their boss, blame the world for the things that aren't working in their lives. And unfortunately, I think that does the same thing. The best thing you can do for people is encourage them that there's opportunities out there no matter what's going on to get yourself in a better position to put yourself in the spot you want to be in. Don't worry about blaming others. Don't worry about people getting on yachts or anything else. Focus on your own lives, doing the best you can, your friends, your family, your wife, your kids, and just like put your head down, go to work, save some money, and do good. Like, I don't know. That's my rant for the day. Glad you guys get to join me in this rotation for dividends. Do me a favor, make some comments, call me an idiot. I'm okay with any of it. And if you can, make it for the Tuesday live. I will try to post this weekend. It's going to be a little bit busy like usual. We do have snowboarding on Saturday. Sunday is something else, and we might make dumplings. So maybe I'll try to record that and talk. I don't know. We'll see. No promise. But we're talking about making some dumplings, which, oh my God, my wife and her mom, my mother in law, make the most incredible dumplings. It has me constantly thinking about getting in the restaurant business again, but I know better. Um, And then Tuesday, my son doesn't have school. Monday, he asked if maybe he could take the day off, and he's a good student, so maybe we let him and go snowboarding again or something because it won't be real crowded. Anyway, so we'll see. I'm going to try to do some videos, but it might be a little scattered. Have a great Friday. Have a good weekend. Hopefully, your portfolios are doing incredible, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye now.